Welcome back to the Growth Jam, everybody. I'm so excited today. We are doing the steady score for figuring out how fast or slow a marketing play is. And as you can see, I have a couple special guests who I'm going to introduce in a second. What's the Growth Gym? You might be asking. The Growth Gym is a practice space for your big marketing and sales ideas. So a lot of times we hear marketing and sales ideas in the wild and we think, ooh, I should be doing this, right? I should start a YouTube channel. I should have an email sequence. I should create a lead magnet. And instead of approaching it that way, we think through in this space whether or not it's the right fit for you and what is a small step you can take to test out whether or not it's right for you. Hey, LaShonda, I see you in the chat. And so today I want to invite you to toss in ideas, questions, or responses. We're going to do that live with Devin and Joanne. But you can also, if you are watching at home, for the folks at home, chat us and let us know what you think. Today, we're going to focus on when a marketing idea will pay off. So is something going to pay off now, later, next month, next year? Is it the right choice for you now? Before we get into it, I want to introduce myself. I'm Lex Roman. I used to work with tech companies. I used to do growth strategy for growing startups. And now I work with small business owners to help them make smarter marketing bets. Today's topic is finding your quick wins with the steady score. Let me introduce my special guests. Okay, we're so excited to have Joanne and Devin with us. Joanne is known as the online tutor coach, and she helps online tutors market their business so they can create sustainable income online. She has an amazing offer right now that you can play the game of tutoring. So I definitely recommend you check her website out. It's right here and see what she's up to. She's got a ton of amazing tools and resources, and she's also a YouTuber. So subscribe to her channel. Welcome, Joanne.
Hey, it's awesome to be here.
Thanks for being here. We also have Devin Lee, system strategist for scaling businesses. Devin is about to be a guest on the podcast next week, and y'all are definitely going to want to tune in for that. Just some amazing systems for tracking leads, for referrals, for networking. Welcome, Devin.
Hey, Lex. Thanks for having me.
So excited you're here. Check out Devin's website too, right here, Devin Lee. She's got amazing stuff. I just took her Inbox Zero Hero. Do you call that a class? What do you call that? A challenge?
A mini course.
A mini course. It's 5 days. And it'll get you to Inbox Zero. It's changed my life. Highly recommended. Okay, let's get into our exercise. So I gave us a little situation today because I want to make sure we're focused on a specific business owner in the context of this. So this is Zoe. Everyone say what's up to Zoe. She's a little frazzled.
Hey, what's up, Zoe?
Zoe sells video editing services. Do y'all know anyone like this? Yes. Okay, awesome. She focuses on small business and creators. So she has a couple packages in the $1,500 to $4,500 range US. She runs her business online. She doesn't have a shop. And her goal right now is to sell more packages. Sound familiar? Sell more packages. Yes. Okay. So Zoe is, what do I do, right? How do I figure this out? Where should I turn for these leads? How do I find these clients? So now we'll look at Zoe's contenders, right? These are some of the things that she's thinking about doing. She's thinking about whether or not she should optimize one of her pages for Google search, maybe a services page. If I optimize this page for Google search, maybe I'll get more leads. She's thinking about sending an email to 3 peers about an offer to say, hey, do you want this, right? Can these people become buyers? These would be people that she already knows. She's thinking about hosting a free webinar. That's a popular strategy. She's thinking about guest podcasting. Is that a good approach for her? She doesn't really know. She's never done it before. She's thinking about posting a TikTok. Devin and I were talking about this, right? Is it worth it? Is it not? It really depends. She's thinking about asking partners for referrals. Common one. We love that strategy. Writing a guest blog post, cross-promoting in someone else's newsletter, maybe someone who does graphics for small businesses or someone who does podcast producing for small businesses. She's thinking about Facebook ads, and she's thinking about whether or not she should speak at events. What do you guys think about these contenders? Any thoughts just looking at this set of stuff?
I think I've done every single one of these, but run a Facebook ad. So I have feelings about every single one.
Love it.
Yeah, and actually, as I take a look at all of those, it's really cool putting them all up there because I'm like, okay, here's what I would actually do right here for her, like that cross promote in someone else's newsletter because they already have an audience, they already have somebody. Like I can see that as being a very high converting. Depends on when she needs that money, like and needs those clients, right? That could be probably her best bet right there. I can just
Yeah.
see it, but
I love it.
and how?
Yes. Okay, Joanne, let's take that one since you called that one out. Let's take that one down here. I'm going to move this guy off to the side. We'll take our little contender down here. Now we're going to run our score. So today, that's exactly what we're focused on, right? What should she do to book clients now? So we're going to put that on deck as our contender, and we're going to run it through the steady score. Let me share what that is with all of our folks at home. If you haven't seen the steady score before, it is an acronym that I made up, and you will know that because it's a little clunky. I really struggled with the word arbitrary. So we've got speed, trust, ease, arbitrary, distance, and yield. What do these things mean? Speed is how fast from doing this until it reaches your buyers. What that means is if you do this activity, when will it possibly get in front of a buyer? So for example, if you do a conference talk and the conference is in October, the earliest it will reach your buyers is in October, right? Trust. How much trust have you built with this audience? Is this an audience that already knows you? Are you farther down in your funnel, so to speak, or are these people brand new to you? Ease. How many factors are involved in getting it right? So when we think about marketing plays, we're thinking about how many different factors are at play there. Is it one, you have to get the message right? You already know the audience, you know the channel, or are you dealing with multiple different pieces, multiple different messages, multiple different channels, and an audience that maybe isn't that known to you? Arbitrary is how predictable is this tactic. So is this something that like you have no control, you can like do the best job at ever? Like Reels is a good example of this, right? You can make the best reel ever, but it could still tank, right? Versus like a cross promotion in a newsletter where there's a little bit more predictability there. Distance. How far is this activity from the money? So is this something that's like high up in the visibility realm, or is it closer to a sale point? And then yield. How much revenue potential does this tactic have on its own? Questions about the steady score, Joanne and Devin, as we look at this?
No, I think it's great to take all of those things into consideration.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's run through the score with cross promoting in someone's newsletter. Let's talk first about speed. How fast from doing this until it reaches your buyers? Joanne, since you called this one out as a good quick strategy, what do you think in terms of speed? Oh, by the way, the score is 0 to 3, where 3 is the fastest and 0 is the slowest.
So I think first they obviously have to know somebody with a strong newsletter growth already. Like if they have built that relationship already, this could be really, really quick tactic. However, if they don't know anybody, that networking piece has to take place. So I think there's that piece of it. But let's pretend that this person does know somebody with some strong newsletters or strong email lists already. I think the speed could be 3 is the fastest, right?
Yeah.
I think it could be a 3. Like, I think that if she gets the messaging right and the targeting right, it could be a 3. If it's the wrong
Cool.
targeting, if she's putting it into the wrong newsletter, right? It's the wrong connection. She's just thinking about, let me just get this out to everybody that I possibly know. This person has a newsletter. Maybe they'll mention me. That's different. But if it, like you had mentioned before, this is somebody who directly is somebody who has services that are similar to. So that's why I give that a 3.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for explaining all that. I totally agree about like who, finding the right fit for the cross promotion is a really interesting piece to think about, especially if this is her first go with this, even if she does already have that relationship. Figuring out if this is going to be the right audience for her still. Devin, what do you think in terms of speed? You agree with 3?
I
You have
was
a
going to
different.
say 3 at first, but with a caveat. And this is just in my experience, because her packages are higher ticket, they're 4 figures. I think it might not be quite at a 3, but if she had a smaller kind of stepping stone package in her funnel, then absolutely a 3. That could then lead to the bigger packages.
I'm
Okay,
so glad you
cool.
said that, because I was thinking in that realm too, like just to go after the big sale in this first go could be a little tough to get right at that audience that way.
I like the
Yeah.
idea of we say it's a stepping stone just so we can get that
Yeah.
3, because it can be such a fast buy that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think about, and this is like, as I wrote here, the study score is not pure math, caveat for the mathematicians. It's really a thought exercise, right? To say like, okay, what are the pitfalls here, which we're talking through right now? So the way that I think about speed is really just about speed to market, not necessarily speed to a sale. The
Mm.
reason I put this in here is that, like, have you guys ever been on a podcast where the podcast didn't come out for like 6 months?
Mhm.
So it's like that podcast is not going to convert, right? Like, even if someone was buy ready and they like listen and they're ready to close, it takes 6 months because that person, holds their podcast or whatever. In the case of Google, it usually takes a month or 2 for a new page to rank, right? So I think of this more as speed just to get in front of the buyers. Distance, I think, is more what you're speaking to, Devin, which is like this is kind of far from the money. So maybe we give this a lower score than a 3, to
I
your point.
agree. Yeah. Can we
Yes.
skip ahead to distance
Yeah,
then?
what would you call it on a distance?
Then yeah, I say then, because of what we just talked about, I would give it a 2, and then keep speed at 3.
Cool. Joanne, do you agree with that too on
Sure.
distance?
That sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Trust is also what y'all were both talking about, right? Like, who is this audience? How much do they know this person, right? How much do they know Zoe? And how much trust have you built with this audience? What would you say there, 0 to 3?
I think I would give it a 3, because it's in someone's newsletter. It's not like just an Instagram post that they're scrolling past. Like, someone had to subscribe, not unsubscribe, and is clicking it open. So usually I think there is higher trust there. And
Mhm.
it's the trust of the person whose newsletter we're
Right.
we're vacationing in. And so if their trust is high, then our trust is high.
I love
Yes.
it.
That's exactly where I was gonna go too. It's not really at this point, it's not the trust of Zoe, it's the trust of the email, the person who has the email list.
Yeah, they're passing that trust on. I
Mhm.
love it. I might give it more of a 2 because they don't know Zoe, but I agree that there's high trust being passed through. I'm curious for folks that are watching what you think, if you agree with our scoring, if you have different thoughts about how you would score this. I think like what makes this approach really strong is the discussion that you have around it. I think it can be really hard to sort through these things on your own, which is why I love doing this together. Okay, so we're gonna go with 3. We're gonna give Zoe the benefit of the doubt, but she's got an amazing partner who like just really shines a light on her in this newsletter promo. So let's talk about ease. How many factors are involved in getting it right? So here I'm really thinking about, you know, who the partner is, what the email says, like what the link is that where she's sending people from this email. So like what are all the pieces there and how many of those factors are there? What do you think in terms of like the level of factors that Zoe has to get right here?
I would give this a low score, like a 1. And I say this because there are so many factors to consider. For example, when someone guests on my newsletter, if when I look at the stats later, if the stats are low, I'm like, well, I have a great audience. You just did not write a good newsletter. And then if it's the reverse, I'm like, well, I write a great newsletter, so you must not have a very strong audience. But there's also like the time of day, the day of week. Is it a holiday? Like, what email did you send last week? Did you send too many? Like, we can't control what the other person's email list is all about, even if their audience trusts them. So I lean towards this. There's a lot of factors going on.
Yeah.
Now, I would say it depends on how you can make this very simplistic. It could be instead of selling them right into that $1,500, $4,500 service, that is just set up a discovery call inside of that email. Like, set up a discovery call with my friend, and therefore she doesn't have to have that whole entire big thing really going on. This is just like, let's just have a conversation. And then she can have that sales conversation and determine if this is going to be a right fit for this particular person that would need it. And she'll then develop that relationship at the same time, which will get her better results.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love thinking about, okay, this could get really complex, but here's how we can make this a lot simpler. We're just going to go straight to a discovery call that really prioritizes buy ready people, right? So it sort of saves her time on like having like low quality leads come in. She's getting more motivated leads come in. Okay, so I think I'm gonna bump that up to a 2 because of Joanne's suggestion of the discovery call. I think that that's right. I totally agree, Devin, that there are a lot of factors, but some of those factors are not things that are like that easy for her to predict, which is where I might go into arbitrary. How predictable is this
Right.
tactic? So how predictable do y'all think this is? Joanne, yeah, go ahead.
I it does a lot of things come down to a numbers game, right? If I know with my own list, I can take a look and I can say, okay, if I send out 1,000 of this and 10% convert, then it's going to be this. With somebody else's list, you don't have those kinds of predictability that are there, which makes it more arbitrary and less predictable. It is a shot in the dark. It's like, look, can I get some people to call me and I can sell them into this package or um, so it is a little bit more arbitrary or predictable. You don't know how many at this point because she's brand new, she doesn't know how many sales calls does she need to have in order to close the deal, right? Like, okay, if I talk to 10 people, one will say yes. She doesn't know any of that information. So for her specifically, it's very arbitrary because there may be other skills that she needs to grow.
Cool. So we'll give it a 0 in your case. Is that what you think? 0? It's like the
Zero,
worst.
one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Devin, what do
I
you
would
think?
agree. Yeah, there's so much that could go on. Yeah, just full agree.
Full agree. Okay. Our last scoring mechanism here on cross promoting in someone's newsletter is yield. So if Zoe cross promotes her business in someone's newsletter, what's the highest revenue potential that this tactic can have on its own? If she does nothing else, do we think this has no revenue potential or the highest revenue potential possible? What do you think in terms of like likelihood to get a booking or two off of it?
I think she absolutely could. I think there's a high yield on this.
Cool. Devin, what do you think? You agree?
Yeah, I give it like a 2.5, like not the highest, but because yeah, you could like again, like I think it's hard to sell a 4-figure package straight from one email, but like it could get there. Like we could nurture and, it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Will's weighing in likely as well. So Will, you agree with the 2.5? Let us know. Okay, so now we're gonna tally up our score. You guys are gonna see how bad at math I am. Okay, Joanne, well, you're a reading tutor, not a math tutor, but okay, we got.
Oh, it's not just a button that you get to like plug in?
Wouldn't that be nice? So if somebody has suggested that I make this its own software. It's not. This is a graphic that I made. But
It's 12.5.
Yeah, it's
thank you, Devin.
12.5.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, we got to make our font
I was thinking
smaller
you're
because
just
we've
gonna hit
got
that button and the score was gonna pop on
Oh,
up.
that would be great, wouldn't it?
That's what I thought
Jo-
too.
Joanne, if it was your game, that's what would happen, right?
That would,
Um,
because I would go into ChatGPT and I would say, "Help me create the code to make this work," and then it would pop out the code for me and I would pop it in. If your program accepts code.
I love it. Okay, so cross promoting in someone's newsletter. We're gonna move this over. It's got a 12.5. It's like this. Just imagine a line of gymnasts standing over here, getting their
Mhm.
scores. So we've got one standing over here. Okay, let's move on to another contender. What do y'all think would be another good one for her to consider?
And are we looking for the quickest win or
Yeah, we're
okay.
trying to look for the quickest win. So if you're just joining us, we're looking at Zoe. She's a video editor. She's trying to sell more packages, and we're looking for her quickest marketing plays. So she's got a bunch of ideas, right? And we want to say, okay, how do we help her think through the idea she thinks is most likely to work for her? So we've already done this one.
For the quickest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Does she have
Joanne.
a list? I was just gonna ask, does she have a list? Does she have any list, or is she at list zero?
I would say that everybody has a list because everybody knows people. So even
Okay.
if you're emailing people, even if you're putting 20 people that you know from work or whatever on there, I think everybody has a list. So let's say she has a small list, like under 100 people that she already knows.
All right, Devin, I'm gonna let you go for it.
Yeah, I'm toggling between email to 3 peers about the offer or ask for a referral from a partner. But I guess my question is, who are the peers, and can we email all of our referrals?
Yeah, okay. Let's go with the referrals because Will also chimed in the chat and said asking for a referral. So let's go with that as our next contender. Okay, wait. So go back and tell me your question again. Can we email all of the referrals? Yes.
All of the referral partners. Yeah. Can we email all of them, or are we reaching out to just one?
Yes. We can reach out to more than one. It really comes down to like effort, right? So how many referral partners do you think you would want to reach out to?
How many would she have at this point?
Yeah.
Probably a small set, like maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Oh, then all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking of Zoe as someone who like maybe did video editing professionally in-house somewhere and has like some contacts or maybe has done some like freelancing on the side and has really gone full force into her business. So it's not like she has like no reputation in this space. She's just got a small audience, right?
Right.
Okay. So let me clear out my little I don't have fancy code in here. If there's any developers watching and wants to help me with this. Okay. So Zoe's going to ask for a referral from 2 to 3 partners. How fast until this reaches the buyers? So it's got to go through the partners to the buyers, right? The partners that have to send it on. How fast? 0 to 3. What do y'all think?
It could be a 3.
Okay.
Depending on how much they have on their, like, because everybody has a different, like, it's like, oh, it's summer, I can't do anything right now, or like all those kinds of things that you can't really predict from when you're working with other people. But I mean, it has the potential to be a 3.
Cool. Devin, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you give them like a little swipe copy, they can just copy and paste to a client they have in mind, then it could get in front of them very easily.
Yeah. I love the swipe copy idea. I think that's such a strong way to ask for referrals and it gets so commonly missed, right? People will say, oh, if you know anyone, and it's like, okay, but what do I say? And most people aren't going to ask you for that. They're just going to be like, sure, I might know someone. But if you just send them the thing to send, it's so powerful. Okay, great. So this is one of our fastest plays in terms of reaching the buyers. Trust. How much trust have you built with this audience? So how much trust have you built with the partners? And as y'all talked about in the last round, how much trust is being passed on through the partner in this case?
Right.
Joanne, what do you think?
This is a tough one because you don't know. It's not like they have like their own large list or anything like that, right? They're just people that are potential people that could refer. And so I find like there's a lot of people that can refer, but never actually moves to the next level. So I've seen a lot of people who like even refer me for my services, but then it might take them 6 months before they actually reach out.
Right. Yes. Okay. Talk about that. Just because the referral partner or the referrer is really excited about you, but they sort of send someone who's like not quite buy ready your way.
Right. Like that person might not be the person that they're specifically talking to. Might be like, well, that's great for you, but that's not something I need right now.
Yeah.
So how much is that there?
Yeah.
Well, for trust specifically, I would probably give it a 3 because even though it might take a while, once someone is referring you, it's usually because something's prompted them to do the referral. So it's like, oh, my, copywriter recommended you to do my website. And if she says you're good, then like, I don't even need to interview you half the time.
Yeah. And I think I went more into distance again, didn't I?
I love it though.
We love distance.
We like distance.
The words are in this order because it makes some acronyms, so it's okay to jump to distance. Okay, so to your point, Joanne, it can be kind of far for the money because people might not be in a buy moment, even though.
Right.
So, what would you score this? Like a 1 or a 2?
I would move it down to a 1 just because I know that a lot of people are like, "I've been talking about you for a while," and I'm like, "Phew, I haven't really seen anything from that." So that's just really from
Yeah.
my own experience versus, those people have to be ready that they're talking to, and a lot of times they're just really sharing the joy and excitement they're experiencing because of you, and that other person isn't they're really far from being buy ready.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a really um, good reason to look at establishing a more formal referral program. And as I talked about at the beginning of this episode, Devin and I talk about that in the podcast next week because you want to stay top of mind for these people year round so that when those buy ready people are there, you're the first call.
Yeah.
It is hard to like get the moment right where you need the work and they have the referrals. That is a really tricky timing. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay, we've got speed, we've got trust, we've got distance. Let's talk about ease. How many factors are involved in this?
Oh, it's so easy.
Yeah, I think it gets
I would say
easier over
easy.
time too. Like, I think when you're new to like networking, you're just trying to network and refer with everyone. And then over time, you're like, I know exactly who my referral partners are. And then you can just click with them easy.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point. I love that. And
But
something
it's
that,
always a lot easier to have somebody talk about you versus you talk about yourself too, right?
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's easier and it passes that trust on. Will's saying easy as pie. Will's a big referral engine, both himself and then in his business. And I think it's also so that, like what you said about the swipe copy, Devin, is so great because, like, yes, it's easier to have them talk about you. And then also you can see that language of what they're talking about you with.
Yeah. And also, as someone who I love referring other people out, and that makes me look good. So it is so much easier to have someone else sell for you than for you to sell yourself because then they get to
Yeah.
shine too.
Yes, and that's one of the strategies you use, Devin, in terms of, like, lifting people up in your referral process, right? Is like, how can I also promote you? Which is great. And Joanne, you do that too in your business a lot, partnering with other people and making sure that you're sharing value within the community.
Yes.
Strong strategies. We've got 2 pros on here, so y'all better pay attention to what they're doing. Okay, we're on step 4, arbitrary. How predictable is this tactic?
It is not predictable. I would give this a 1.
Okay.
You have no idea what they're saying. You have no control over that at the end of the day. Because they could be like, "Yeah, I totally refer this person," and then depending on the type of person they are, they might actually say something negative that could, like, turn them in the wrong direction, or they could be like, "Well, she's really good, but, it's really pricey," or do you know what like, you have no
Yeah,
control over what that person is going to say, so it's completely arbitrary.
Yeah,
yeah,
and agree, and to piggyback off of that, like, I know I have a whole system for when I decide to be someone's referral partner, like, I get their blurb, I get their info, I check in with them, like, I know what's going on with them, and I know how to refer them, but I know a lot of people who agree to be my referral partner, they walk away, they might not remember what I do, and they might not check my referral partner emails, like, they might not wanna be as engaged as me, and I just have to you have to just accept that that's part of it.
we
Mhm.
accept the referrals, the referral partners we deserve. Um, and I think to your point, Devin, it maybe becomes more predictable over time as those relationships become more clear. So we'll give it a 1 for now. Zoe's pretty new to it, and she's not sure about this, so we'll keep it at a 1. Okay, yield, revenue potential. How much revenue potential does this have? Keeping in mind that we have 2 to 3 partners here. What do we think the upside is for her?
She
That's tough.
may get 1, she may not. Like, I wouldn't expect it to be like, she's gonna fill all 5 spots, right?
Yeah,
I think if she keeps up at it over time and builds her base, it could be a 3. I'm totally biased because this is my main form of getting leads. But if she's like, okay, I got 2 or 3 people I'll check in once or twice a year, then
Yeah.
the chances are low.
yeah.
Mhm.
So should we give it a 1 or a 2? Where are y'all falling on that?
I'd say more 1.
1?
All right,
Okay.
we'll say 1.
Because she only has 2 to 3 right now. It's the strategy
True,
that she can
true.
build up on, But right now, she only has 2 to 3 referral partners, so it's gonna be high it's gonna be low yield at this point in time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over time, if she continues to build that networking and those strong relationships and, it's a mutual relationship versus it just being, like, one-sided, I think, yeah, it will be really, really powerful.
Yeah. Okay, I did the math in my head. Believe it or not, we're at a 12 for this. Okay, so, um, 12 worse than 12.5, so we've got a little score here, right, that's telling us so far we're leaning towards the cross promotion versus this. Let's
Does
pick
it have
one.
to be a versus? Does she have to just put her tactics in just, like, one thing, or could she like, take all the 12s and be like, "I'm gonna do all of them so that I can get
sh
that."
she can do all of them, but my sort of approach is always like, Joanne, you're such a powerhouse. My sort of approach is like, do the thing that is going to yield the most results for the least amount of effort, right? This channel is called Low Energy Leads for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
reason. So start with the lowest effort, highest value, and then just go
Yeah.
down the list, right? If you can do that all in
Yeah,
one
yeah.
day, good for you. But it's like, in any given task, there's usually a stack rank. It's
Sure.
hard to do things concurrently unless you have a team.
Right.
Um, okay, so let's try to pick one more and let's see if we can give her something higher than a 12. So just looking at the
I would
rest of
say
these, or if you
speak
have
at a
another one
targeted
too.
event. I mean, that would be
I was gonna
huge.
say that too.
I
Let's do
love it.
it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, speaking at a targeted event, bringing it down. Okay, speaking at a targeted event, Joanne, do you want to explain this or think about or like explain the scenario you're thinking of? Give us an example maybe from your work.
Anytime I speak on stage, I am more likely to turn people into a sale than if I just I actually went to a homeschooling event where I had a table and not one person really came to my table to like look at the products or anything. I was engaging with them and I was even like had story hour because I had written like a kid's storybook called Three Little Sisters Learn to Get Along. And I was like reading it and I was engaging with the kids and I was trying to like engage. And it was like crickets. Like everybody was looking at this book and they were like, "Oh, we don't have 3 kids." Or it was like all these objections. I'm just like, "It's just a storybook." Like I'm like, "Okay." So then I get on stage and I'm talking about all the different ways to like how can you help your child with learning to read with phonics really quickly. It was phonics the easy way. And I also had that product on my table downstairs, but nobody took a look at it or gave it a glance. But when I spoke, I had people immediately who came down to my table, bam, they bought it immediately. I had somebody who in that room bought it immediately from me, and it was at a higher price range, especially for the homeschooling community. It was like a $500 price point. So that was something that really worked for me, and I've noticed it with other places where I speak as well. When I speak, I get more people following me. I get more people that are doing this. So it's a very quick win to begin growing your audience, but it also is a quick win for people to say, you know what, I like you, I trust you, I'm gonna move forward with you.
Yeah, it really short circuits so many of these hoops that we're talking about, right? Because people that
Hmm.
trust happens so quickly in the talk, they get to know you, right? They're more clear about the problem you solve and how you solve it. And then you're like literally right in front of your buyer. So you're like reaching them and closing the deal in the moment. It's pretty cool. I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing it because I also think, people are, especially like as online marketing gets more saturated, people are looking at local events a lot. And there's a lot of nuance there about like, am I speaking? Am I attending? Am I having a booth? Am I sponsoring? What does that look like? So it's really helpful to hear that example. Okay. So Zoe is speaking at some kind of targeted event. So we're going to say it's similar to what Joanne just explained, where it's a room of potential buyers, right? Small businesses and creators who might need her video editing services. So how fast from doing this until it reaches your buyers? What do y'all think?
I mean, if it's I mean, what do we consider fast? Because often when I'm invited to speak at an event, it could be next month, and that
I
that
know,
seems
that's what I was
pretty
thinking about too.
fast.
Yeah, it seems fast. Next month does, Devin.
Yeah, but I guess it could be faster. Maybe we'll give it a 2? Jaren, what do you think?
Yeah, the only thing that's standing in the way of it is that there's not always a targeted event right now that's happening. And if it is, you had to be on the list about 6 months ago when they were thinking of organizing the event.
Yes, I think it's usually like at least a quarter to 2 quarters usually, right? If it's like if it's a bigger event. It can depend if it's like a regular local meetup or something that meets pretty regularly. Usually you can get in on those like a month or two before, but
I was thinking way too
yeah.
big then. I was thinking way too big. I was thinking like an actual like big like speaking event, like at a conference or a summit or
I mean, there's a total range here, right? And I'm being like sort of
Yeah.
hand wavy about it, but I think of this less as a conference, or at least when I wrote this, I was sort of intending this to be like a local event that's
Okay.
happening. But I do think it's at least a month or two usually out, even for something as casual as a meetup. But let's say it's like a local 1 day sort of event slash conference or professional thing for small business owners in her community. And she's got to be on the list sometime, within a couple months in order to even be considered for it. So what do you think? A
Mhm.
couple months, given what we talked about here?
Maybe even a little longer because Zoe is new-ish. She has to also apply and build relationships and kind of build a little bit of credibility as well. So it might even be slower than a few months.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, right? It's pretty hard to go right out with this if she doesn't have a background in speaking or
Yeah. You're
relationship
not
with
gonna
the
get it at
organization.
TEDx. You're not gonna get it at TEDx event tomorrow because you just feel like it.
Yeah. TEDx is a great parallel, I think, Joanne, because it's like those tend to be like local people speak at TEDx's in their community. But it is like a serious thing and it takes a lot to get in on that. So I love it. Okay. So speed. It's a little slow because she's got to plan ahead. And so while at the event, she's going to be right in front of her buyers. If she can pull this off, the planning time here is a little bit longer than some of the other things we've been talking about. So trust. Let's talk about trust. How much trust have you built with this audience if you do this
If you're a
activity?
good speaker, I would say it could be a 3 because they see you, they like you, they hear you, they're connecting with you. But again, if you're a terrible speaker, if that's not your strength, this is not going to be your strategy. So we didn't really ask that about Zoe, did we? Like,
Yeah, we
are
didn't.
you a good speaker? Like,
Yeah.
we don't know that about her. So just to be like out of the gate, but she would know that about herself and she would be able to determine that for herself. We're going to just give her the benefit that she is able to communicate herself really well.
I love it. Here's
I
Zoe.
agree.
She's
Yeah, like
ready.
unless Zoe kind of just, you know, mishandles the whole speaking engagement up into the point where they're, right before she messes up, if she were to mess up. I mean, these people are, usually paying to be at the event. Or even if they're not paying, they're taking time out of their day. They're not like casually listening to a podcast or scrolling social media. So I think people who are, if they're actively listening, if they're at that point and she is an engaging speaker, the trust could very well be a 3.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I agree. I think even if she's like sort of new to speaking, if she shows up authentically and communicates around the service that she does and why it's valuable, I think she can sort of build trust anyway, even if it's a little clumsy on the first go. But great points. And that sort of actually speaks to ease, which is how many factors are involved in getting it right. Because if she doesn't have a talk ready to go, there's actually a lot of work that goes into this.
Mhm.
What does that
Yeah.
look like, Joanne? You do a ton of speaking. So what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, and that's why I actually have like branded kind of myself with this game of tutoring, right? Because I was being asked to speak on so many different things and creating all these different PowerPoints and presentations and getting things ready. I'm like, why am I making this so complicated for myself? I see speakers who just speak on the same topic all the time. Why can't I be that person? Or at least how do I take like what my main thing is and I at least address that in every single talk, no matter what it is, right? Let's find out what your level of tutoring is so I can help you where you're at inside of your business, right? And this particular topic I'm talking about is a level thing. So, yeah, it takes about an hour at least. At least. I've gotten really quick at it, I feel like, to, come up with a 30-minute talk. It will take about an hour to really create those PowerPoints, to think about what it is that you want to say. Are you hitting the objections that other people might have? Are you sharing testimonials, gathering those testimonials, gathering the images of the people that you're going to put into your testimonials? It like all of that takes time, and I've moved that into like an hour. So I would say like the ease maybe not there necessarily if you've never done it before, unless you just plan on just getting up in front of them and speaking. Or
Yeah,
being interviewed. Interviewed is super easy. If you're speaking in an event and just being interviewed, that's super easy because you just have to answer the questions that the person's asking you. That can be
right.
super easy. So it depends on, are you like the presenter type or are you being interviewed?
Yeah. Devin, what do you think?
Same. I think once you kind of have a little experience under your belt and you know exactly what you're talking about, you have your talking points, maybe you have 3 different talking points and you pick one depending on what the situation is. You know exactly who your audience is, so you're not speaking to the wrong people. Like once you know what you're looking for and what you're offering, it can be easy, but when you're first starting out, there is a little bit of testing going on. So
Mhm.
I would give this a lower score just cuz Zoe, this is probably her first time speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it takes a while to get to where you are, Joanne, where you can like pump it out and you know exactly what to hit. Like I feel like it takes people years to get there with public speaking, honestly, right? Because it's such a big ramp up to do if you
And
haven't
you
done
also
it
have to get over
before.
your fears.
I
Your
was
Right.
going to say you have to get
fears, your
comfortable.
anxieties. Yeah.
So what do you think? A 0 or a 1?
Maybe
Maybe
a
a
0.
1. Oh, a 0.
Maybe a 0.5.
I was
Point
gonna say,
5. Let's do
introduce
it.
the point 5 again. Killing me with the decimals. Okay. Arbitrary. How predictable is this tactic? Speaking at an event with buyers.
I feel like even when you're not good, you can still get 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're at the right event and you have an engaging talk, it can be I'd give it a 2.
Yeah, I think it's pretty predictable because you can look at who comes to these events. You might even be able to see the guest list of the events or from past years who went. You can see speakers, right? There's a lot of evidence you can gather about whether or not this event is your crowd and whether or not those people are buying. And as we talked about, I think y'all mentioned these folks are highly motivated. They're setting aside time in their day to like learn about something, so they probably have they're problem aware, right? And so some of them are definitely like solution shopping. Love it. Okay. Distance. How far is this activity from the money? So this is really like, is this a high up in the visibility space? Is it closer to a sale? And as we talked about, I think it's leaning closer to a sale. But what do you think?
It can be if you know how to sell from stage. Otherwise, you gotta move on into, like, that discovery call phase again, where you're really getting to know who it is, and then you have to know how to convert from there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
still don't think that you could just, like, stand on stage unless you are, like, Russell Brunson or, some of those people. They can just, like, stand on stage and have people run to the back of the room, right? They know exactly what to do and how to say it. I think for her to be able to sell a $1,500 or $2,000 package on one of these first goes, that might be difficult if that's her ending call to action.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I think again, if it's a targeted event, like targeted is such the key word. Like if like
Mhm.
there are events that I've spoken at where instantly every time I speak at this event, I always make at least one sale afterwards, if not more. And then like years later, I'll have people on a coffee chat who I've never met before say, "Oh, I saw you speak at that event."
Yep.
So like it really does build like it's like the hottest lead you can get. But again, because she's new, she might not be there quite, but I don't know. She could maybe if she's a great speaker on the first try, who knows?
But what are
Yeah.
the odds of that? Those are not good
You're
odds.
They're
right.
not,
I
it's
mean,
You have
we've
to be
all listened to
special.
some really bad speakers, am I right?
Yes.
I was one of them, so I know.
yes. I recently went back and watched, I started speaking about 10 years ago. I recently went back and watched from my early talks. And it's really interesting though. I do think like, even then, in my case, I had something to say. I wasn't saying it that well, but I had something to say. And so people still responded to it well. And it still like attracted people into my network. At that time, I wasn't working for myself.
But did
So
it lead into a direct sale?
yeah,
Did
in
it
my
grow an
case, I wasn't
audience or
going
did it
for a
lead to a direct
sale.
sale? Because that's what we're looking at right now, right? Like,
Yes.
because it's not about audience growth at this point. She needs that $1,500 to $4,500 packages sold for a
Yeah.
specific reason right now.
So, in terms of how far this is from the money, I would say this is close to the money if she can sell well, right? So, it's like she's going to be face to face with a buyer. So, it's like her sale to lose versus like a Google page where she's got several blockades in her way there, right? So I would say this is pretty close to the money. And then what we're talking about here is really about yield. Will this yield revenue potential for her? And it sounds like a little bit of a toss up, y'all are saying. So maybe we give this like a 1 or a 1.5. Because it's like it could if she really nails it, but it's like she's not that likely to nail it, maybe.
Yeah, I would give distance a 2 and yield a 1.
Okay. Do you agree, Joanne?
Sure.
Anyone watching, do y'all agree with our scoring on this? What do you think? Okay, this actually ended up, I think, lower than the other one, even though we're trying to give her a win here. Okay, so we've got 4.
9.5.
Thank you, Joanne.
I would love to revisit this after Zoe's been practicing for a year and see if the score will rise after a while. But yeah, because she's new, it's a little bit of a want.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so we've got our little stack here. So Zoe has her marching orders. If you're just tuning in here, Zoe is a video editor. She's trying to sell some packages. And so we've just come up with a little backlog for her, prioritized to-do list, right? She's going to start here with the highest score. That's her fastest, best play, according to us, a jury of her peers. She's going to cross promote in someone's newsletter she already has a relationship with, and she's going to get seen there and get on discovery calls with people. Then she's going to move on to asking for referrals from a couple partners. Then she's going to look at speaking at a targeted event because there's a lot of complexity there, as we just illuminated. Oh yeah, okay, LaShonda, we haven't talked about YouTube. I definitely think we need to bring YouTube in a future growth gem because it's really become obviously an interest of mine. We're live there now.
Yeah.
All right. Devin and Joanne, I really want to thank you for helping me sort out Zoe's marketing plans today. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing all of your expertise in this space. Really appreciate it.
I love it. I love the thought process that we went through as we were thinking about like what would be the best actions for her to take and what is really needed in order to be successful with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't take us that long, right? In around 45 minutes, we got through 3 marketing strategies, which is worth taking the time to just think through, okay, what are all the things that are at play here before you dive right in and spend months waiting to speak at this conference, for example, or this event in your community, where you could just say, okay, should I even bother with this? Maybe I'll have something quicker that'll work faster. I think that's really what I want folks to get out of the study score is just to check in with yourself about, is this thing going to bring leads this month, next month, or is it going to take a few months for that to pay off? Do I not have time for that? Really key. If you enjoyed watching today's session, you might enjoy Growth Trackers. Growth Trackers illuminates your path through your marketing options. It is my signature marketing experimentation program. It is not a course. It is a live program with customized support around what you're actually dealing with in your business. We sort through your marketing options. We talk about things the way that we talked about them today. We run exercises. We have weekly track and tunes where you can bring the things that you're working on. We can check in on how they're doing in your business. And I want to encourage you to get on that wait list. I'm going to put the QR code up for you. And you'll get more information when you join that. And we can stay in touch. Joanne, Devin, anything you want to shout out as we close out today's Growth Gym? Anything that's coming up for y'all?
You know what? Just keep putting in the right actions, figuring out what those right actions are for you. One person's right actions are not everyone's right actions. You have to think about what are your specific goals right now? What is it that you want to accomplish? And then over time, what are your goals? And I think you'll have lots of success with that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Good motivational talk. Devin, you got some words of wisdom for us?
I'm just going to shout out our podcast episode that's coming out next week. Listen to Lex's podcast. I listen to it anyways, so I highly recommend it anyways, but my episode's coming out next week, so I'm extra promoting it right now.
It's so good. We talk all about the systems behind Devin's business, and you'll be amazed at some of the things that she has systematized. It's really inspired me, and I know y'all will love it. So that's coming out next Wednesday. Stay tuned right here on YouTube for that, and you can get it in the podcasting apps as well. Thank y'all for being here. Really appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week on the Growth Gym. We'll be covering experiments we ran in July. If you want to see the experiments I've been running, and if you want to bring your experiments, please do. and we'll see you next Friday.